Yo, what it do was popping. So first thing off top, I'm gonna apologize because I'm putting this video together really quick. So I probably got the beard all scruffy. You probably gonna hear my neighbor's dog barking. You probably hear my dryer going right now. Apologize. Putting it together really quick. Wanted to get this video out. So last video I put up was how to tune your 808s the easiest way in Logic, right? I got a question on that video, or a comment on that video by Rio. Shout out to Rio. And Rio says, everyone's doing these videos, but never seem to mention what happens if you bring it into the quick sampler and the root key says C3, but when you pull up the tuner and metering, it says G sharp when you push the C key on your keyboard. In other words, how do you tune the 808 if the tuner says something different from what the sampler says under the root key? Cool. Really good point. Really good question. What Rio's talking about is how do you manually tune your 808s, right? So what happens if you throw an 808 into the sampler and it doesn't automatically pitch it? It doesn't automatically find the key. How do you manually do this? I'm going to show you how to do that now. The cool thing about this, or the good thing to know about this, is this logic in terms of not the program, but just thought process. The way about going about this, you can apply to any sampler, any DAW, any plugin of choice that you use for your 808s. This thought process applies, so you can really do this anywhere. Here's what we're going to do. I pulled up this Logic project, nothing in here, just my voice, and I'm going to show you from scratch how this goes. So we're going to pull up a sampler, and we're going to do the quick sampler, just because we're pulling in one sample. We're not chopping anything up. We're not doing multiple samples. Open this up. There we go. I'm going to go find the 808 that I want to use. So here we have a bunch of 808 samples. They're not labeled, right? So we don't know what key it is. We use that one. Drag it over. Now, I'm not going to drag it into Optimize. Optimize is what I go over in the last video. So go take a look at that. I'm going to drag it into Original. And then here's what happens. Now, if I go to my keyboard and I start hitting C, it's going to trigger the sample, right? Now, here's what Rio's talking about. If we go into the audio effects, we go to metering, and we pull up a tuner on the 808, and I hit that C, here's what happens. This is showing me F, right? I'm hitting C on my keyboard, and I'll do it a few different places. It's showing F. It's not properly tuned. If I go and I try to make a melody or try to do a bass line or an 808 pattern, it's not going to show right. So here's how we fix that. It's actually really straightforward to think it through. If I hit C, on the keyboard and it's giving me F, what that's telling me is that root note is F. So what I have to do is go back to the sampler. In the sampler that you're using, find the area that says root key. And in this case, in the Logic sampler, it's right here. We're going to click on that and drag and set it to F, because when I hit C on the keyboard, it was telling me F. It was literally telling me the root key. So we're going to set it to F3 instead of C3 by hand. You can type it in, you can drag it, whatever you feel most comfortable doing. Now when I go back and hit C on my keyboard, the tuner is showing me C. Now I've properly tuned the 808 manually. I've tuned it manually to where it should be. So that's really it. That's how you manually tune your 808s. Now what I'm gonna also show you, just so you can see that it's really in any sampler, I'm gonna pull up another sampler. I'm gonna pull up Contact and do the exact same thing with an 808 in Contact. So get rid of that sampler. I'm going to open up another 808. We'll do that one, right? So I'm going to drag the sample into Contact, and same principle, right? So I'm going to go back to the keyboard, hit C, and then go to my metering, add a tuner. Whoa. So when I hit C, it's showing me G. Right? It's showing me a G. So here's what we do. In the case of Contact, I know that we go into the mapping editor. In the mapping editor, this is the same thing, right? Root. So when we're mapping it, I'm going to change this to G3. And now when I go back and hit C on my keyboard, we're looking at C. And I've properly pitched it. And now I can go through and do everything else that I would typically do with an 808. You know, set it to mono. I would probably, back in the quick sampler, I would do the follow tempo or undo the follow tempo. Anyways, I go over that in the other video, right? The other things that we want to do once we have an 808 in Logic or in the sampler. But that's how you go about it. That's how you're manually tuning your 808s. Long story short, what you want to do is open up the sampler, add a tuner, hit that C key on your keyboard, whatever note the tuner is giving you. When you hit your C key, that's the note you want to set your root key to in the sampler, and that should pitch your 808s. You can apply that to any plugin. You can apply that to any sampler. You can apply that to any DAW. Like this is, I'm doing it in Logic. The video title will probably say Logic, but you can really apply that principle to anything. Hope that helps, Rio. I hope that helped you out. If it does, cool. Give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know what other questions you guys have. Because that was a really good point. There's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of tutorials out there. And I try not to do stuff that's readily available. You know, it's already saturated on YouTube as it is. I don't want to, you know, just add to the saturation. So any questions that you guys have that you've been hunting, that you've been looking for, and you really can't find, throw those questions my way. I'd be more than happy if I know how to answer it, to do that for you. So cool. Hope that works. Hope that you like that. Any other questions, shoot them my way. Catch you on the next one.